Well, it's emerged this week that the alleged mastermind behind one of the greatest financial scandals in history has allegedly been using a fake Australian passport while living in China. Jho Low was alleged to have played a key role in defrauding Malaysia's 1MDB sovereign wealth fund of more than $4.5 billion US dollars. The 1MDB scandal has seen Malaysia's former Prime Minister Najib Razak as well as executives from Goldman Sachs put in jail. But Jho Low remains a free man. So why is that the case? It's a question I put to Tom Wright from the investigative outlet Brazen, which broke this story.
Well, the story goes back to 2015-16 when the 1MDB scandal first broke. Najib, his protector, who was then Prime Minister of Malaysia, tells him, get out of Malaysia, it's too hot here, and he goes to China. And he still has the backing of a prime minister at that time, Prime Minister Najib. And he cooks up all these corrupt Belt and Road deals. These are these infrastructure deals that China was financing around the world. And they agreed to build a railway in Malaysia and to pad the contract to the tune of millions of dollars, and then to share out the bounty between Jho Low and these corrupt Chinese officials. And at the time, those Chinese officials included some very high-ranking people, including a guy called Sun Lijun, who was head of the domestic security forces in China. So the short answer to your question is he had very, very high-level protection in China because people were getting rich. You know, don't forget, Jho Low still has billions of dollars from the fraud, and he's lined people's pockets. A bunch of those people did go to jail in China for corruption, actually, including Sun Lijun. But, you know, our latest research shows that he's still very well protected there and not even really under house arrest. Seems like he's able to move around quite freely. The second point would be that there's a lot of people in Malaysia that don't really want him home facing trial. He's been indicted in Malaysia, but of course, lots and lots of people, including some people in the current government, were probably involved with him. And therefore, they don't want the dirty linen of the 1MDB scandal being aired again in Malaysia, even if Prime Minister Najib is now in jail there.
Yes. Tom, how did you come to know of his whereabouts in China? Because when that story broke, as you mentioned 10 years ago, there were theories that Jho Low might have been, somewhere in the Middle East and even Russia.
Well, Bradley Hope and I, both of us wrote the book $1 Billion Whale. We launched about 2 years ago, we launched a Where is Jho Low campaign on YouTube. We got some photos back then, somebody sent in one of him in Shanghai Disneyland, his Chinese minders in the back of the picture. There was another one from the aquarium in Bangkok. But then more recently this year, we've launched a Where is Jho campaign via a meme coin. We decided to be creative here and almost start a community search for him. We took over a meme coin that already existed. We were offering little bits of it out to people who would give us leads. And we got some really interesting leads. One person sent in a copy of his passport that Jho Low had used inside China to do something, and we were able to sort of verify that with second sources. And then somebody else said, look, he's living in this green villas development in Shanghai, which is this very posh, upscale neighborhood in the center of Shanghai, big wooden mansions there with rivers, lakes, and but right in the center of town. So we're able to locate exactly where he lives. Again, we were able to corroborate that from the leads. We were able to find that he's using this fake Australian passport to do things like, check in at hotels, open accounts, We found out just yesterday that he's been opening accounts in the UK using this fake Australian passport. So he's able to operate, and he's still got billions of dollars, useful to Chinese officials, useful, I'm sure, to many other people around the world, and not in jail, totally free.
Yes, and given your investigation is now out there into his whereabouts, are you expecting at all that Malaysia may push for his extradition and for China to perhaps change tact and pursue Jho Low?
Well, the Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, said after our report came out on Friday, we did a live stream on Friday on YouTube for 4 hours, and the Prime Minister came out afterwards on the weekend after being asked by Malaysian journalists, and he said, look, we'll look into it. But we've heard all that before, we'll look into it. I mean, they know that he's in China, honestly. They've known it for many years, and they, I'm sure, have tried to back channel to the Chinese government. Well, actually, I know for a fact they've tried to back channel to the Chinese government to get him returned. The problem is, there's not enough willpower in Malaysia for that to happen because, as I said, there's a government, the UMNO ruling party, which was the party of Najib, who's now in jail, who was Jho Low's protector and the former prime minister there. Many of those senior UMNO people are in power in this coalition government of Anwar Ibrahim. So, Is the political will there in Malaysia? No, I don't really think so. Maybe Anwar would like it, but I don't think it's there more broadly. And then in China, no. To your answer to your question, I don't think there's the will in China to send him back. Too many very senior Chinese officials have been involved with Jho Low and have gotten rich because of Jho Low. And Jho Low, as far as we know, and we're still investigating this, and we want all leads that we can get, is still very useful to people there as a billionaire who knows how the world works and has access to all kinds of like subterranean financing and money movement channels. So I don't think he's going to come back in the short term, but we're going to keep pushing at Brazen, our company, to try to get new leads on him.
Yes, and effectively he's a free man in China. So what else do we know about the life he's living there and what else he's been up to?
Well, we found out some very interesting things about his family. You know, he's married to this woman, Jessalyn, who's his high school girlfriend from Penang. He's from Penang in Malaysia. He has children with her. You know, she's been doing things like joining the Hong Kong Yacht Club, for example. You know, she's not under indictment anywhere and she's not under sanctions, so she's able to do that. And as far as we know, Jho Low's been able to use that club if he's in Hong Kong. Jho Low's brother's in Hong Kong. His parents are also indicted and they're on the run with him. We've got evidence that the family has taken holidays in Europe. They're not the ones who aren't under international arrest warrants, in places like Switzerland, spending huge amounts of money still, you know, like they always did, you know, best hotels, chauffeured cars, ski resorts, all that kind of stuff. And so Jho Low himself, as far as we know, is in Shanghai, is able to travel around China at least freely. We haven't got any evidence in the last year of him being outside the country, you know, although, as I said earlier, he had been in places like Bangkok since being indicted. He's also been in Kuwait, but beyond that, we're not really sure if he's traveled internationally extensively. But definitely inside China and the big cities, he's able to move freely.
Yes, and finally, Tom, you know, he is not been actively pursued. You are saying that there is no political will in China nor Malaysia to hold him to account. But what do Malaysians feel? Because he defrauded billions of dollars from the 1MDB sovereign wealth funds, and a lot of the ostentatious life he was living off those billions of dollars in buying, you know, the luxury yacht and the amounts of champagnes he was having with those huge parties across the world. What do Malaysians still feel about this?
Well, actually, you know, we've also been able to find out recently that the Malaysian government itself, you know, the number you always hear about this 1MDB fraud is $4.5 billion, because it's what the Department of Justice said when it first went after all the assets, you know, the Wolf of Wall Street film process, which he made with the stolen money, the mansions, the yachts, all of this stuff. Jewelry to Miranda Kerr, the Australian supermodel who was his girlfriend, and Picasso's to Leonardo DiCaprio, who was his friend. But actually, the quantum of this fraud is much, much larger. The Malaysian government now believes it could be anywhere up to $18 billion, $16 to $18 billion. And that's because this China part we were talking about has actually led to billions of dollars more in losses. We think Jho Low's, or the Malaysian government thinks Jho Low's personal take was $2.5 billion. I'm actually always astounded that the anger levels aren't larger. I think in Malaysia, and sorry to say, I think a lot of people there just think that corruption is the name of the game and it's run of the mill. And what can you do about it anyway? But what we're hoping is that, you know, we see this on social media, on X and other places when we post this "Where is Jho Low" campaign. A lot of people get involved. A lot of Malaysians get involved, and they get online. And the reason, you know, I'm talking to you as well is we just want more and more Malaysians to see this kind of thing and to get in touch with Tibbs, because people know him, people know where he is, people interact with him. And, you know, if we keep going, we keep the pressure up, then I think we'll get more and more information.
Okay, Tom Wright, we'll keep a close watch on your investigations. Thank you very much for speaking with us.